Right now, 40% of your summer cooling bill is doing a job your wall should be doing for free. Your AC is pulling 1.5 gallons of water out of your indoor air every 24 hours. There is a Japanese wall material that has been doing that job for 1,200 years, for $30. The drywall in your house was installed by a contractor who took the cheapest option available. The paint on top of it was rolled on in 2 coats by someone making $17 an hour. Together, they create a sealed plastic envelope around every room you sleep in. Inside that envelope, the air keeps getting more humid. The wall does not let it out. Your AC has to do that work instead, pulling water out of the air at the rate of 1.5 gallons every 24 hours. That work is 40% of your summer cooling bill. There is a Japanese wall material that has been doing the work your AC is doing for over 1,000 years. It is a lime-based paste applied with a wooden trowel. It costs $30 per square meter in materials. It lasts 100 years. It breathes. It pulls humidity out of the air when the room is wet and releases it back into the air when the room is dry. The Japanese have been using it on temple walls since the Nara period in the year 750. The American Coatings Association quietly removed it from the residential wall finish standards in March of 1976. I am going to show you 3 things in this video. The first is the material itself, what it is, where it goes, and what it does that your drywall cannot. The second is the physics, why a 1-centimeter layer of lime paste regulates humidity better than a $4,000 dehumidifier. And the third is the 1976 American Coatings Association document I tracked down through the trade group's archive in Washington, naming the 11 member companies who voted to make vapor-permeable wall finishes non-recommended for American homes. Stay with me, because once you understand this, you will never look at the wall behind your bed the same way. Let me start with a number that should make you angry. $4 billion. That is what Americans spend every year on mold remediation in homes that should never have grown mold in the first place. The Centers for Disease Control estimates that 50 million Americans live in homes with detectable indoor mold colonies. The average remediation job costs $3,500. The Japanese have not run a residential mold remediation industry in any meaningful scale for 1,000 years. Their walls handle it. The reason yours does not is in the chemistry of what your wall is made of. The material is called Shikkui. The literal translation is white plaster. It is made from 3 ingredients: slaked lime, calcium hydroxide produced by burning limestone and adding water, hemp fiber for tensile strength so the wall does not crack, and seaweed glue extracted from cooked nori, which binds the lime particles together without sealing the wall. The wall is applied in 2 thin coats with a wooden trowel called a coat. The first coat goes on rough. The second coat is polished to a smooth matte white that reflects ambient light and stays cool to the touch. A finished Shikkui wall is about 1 centimeter thick. It looks like high-end stucco. It feels like cool stone. I drove to Nara last fall. Nara is where Japanese lime plastering started. The oldest surviving Shikkui walls in the world sit inside the Tadaiji Temple complex, which was first built in 752. I met a man named Kobayashi Toshiyuki at a workshop 2 kilometers from the temple. He is 71 years old. His family has been mixing and applying Shikkui for 7 generations. He showed me a section of his own home that his grandfather had plastered in 1948. 78 years old, no cracks, no discoloration, no mold, bone dry to the touch. He held a small glass jar of dried seaweed in his hand and told me that the seaweed was the part the Americans had refused to understand. The seaweed binds without sealing. The Americans, he said, took out the seaweed and added vinyl. The vinyl seals. The wall stops breathing. The family inside starts coughing. The physics are not complicated. Lime plaster is microporous. The interior of the material is a network of tiny channels that allow water molecules to pass through in both directions. When indoor air humidity rises above 60%, the lime wall absorbs moisture out of the air into its pores. When humidity drops below 40%, the wall releases that moisture back into the air. The wall acts as a passive humidity buffer. It holds the room at the precise humidity range that human lungs evolved to breathe, and that mold spores cannot survive in. Modern American drywall covered with vinyl acrylic paint does the opposite. The vinyl creates a vapor barrier. The drywall sheet behind the paint absorbs whatever humidity slips past, but cannot release it. The studs get wet. They stay wet. The mold colony begins. The AC compensates by running longer and longer cycles, trying to pull the humidity that the wall is no longer regulating. The bill climbs. This is the thing the American Coatings Association understood in 1976, and it is the thing they decided you would not be allowed to have. The document is real. I requested it through the American Coatings Association archive in Washington. It took 6 months. The clerk emailed me a 30-page PDF. The revision is titled Interior Wall System Standards Revision, 76-3, dated March of 1976. The revision did one thing. It moved vapor-permeable wall finishes, including all traditional lime plasters and all clay plasters, from the recommended category to the non-recommended category in the trade group's residential application guidance. The 11 companies who voted yes are named on page 17. 8 of them sold vinyl acrylic paint. 2 sold gypsum drywall. 1 sold petrochemical-based wall sealant. None of them sold lime. Lime plaster is not a patentable product. The lime had been quarried by independent contractors in Indiana and Pennsylvania since the 1800s. You cannot build a national paint brand on a material a homeowner can buy from a regional quarry for less than the wholesale cost of paint. The revision was approved. By 1980, the American construction industry had completed its transition. Lime plaster disappeared from new residential construction within a single decade. Not banned, not disproven, just downgraded out of the standard. And while Shikkui was disappearing from American homes, something else happened. Between 1976 and 2024, the American mold remediation industry grew from roughly $40 million in annual revenue to over $4 billion. A 100-fold expansion in 50 years. The Centers for Disease Control documented a parallel rise in pediatric asthma diagnoses that researchers have repeatedly linked to indoor humidity and mold exposure. None of those studies have been incorporated into American residential wall finish standards. Now, if you already own a home and you are thinking this only applies to people building from scratch, stay with me because this next part is specifically for you. The material is sold by Japanese building supply companies that ship to the United States. It comes in 2 forms: dry powder mix in 20-kilogram bags, which you mix with water on site, or ready-to-apply paste in 5-kilogram tubs that goes on like joint compound. A single bag covers roughly 12 square meters of wall, about 120 square feet, at the proper 1 centimeter thickness. Material cost runs between $25 and $40 per square meter depending on the supplier. For a small bedroom of 4 walls and 10-foot ceilings, the full material budget is around $500. The application is straightforward enough that any drywall contractor can do it after watching the free training video the Japan Plaster Industry Association publishes online. The technique is closer to drywall finishing than to anything traditionally American. The first coat goes on with a wide trowel and cures for 24 hours. The polishing coat goes on the next day and fully sets in 3. The wall is its own finish. It stays a matte white that does not yellow with age, does not require repainting on the 10-year cycle that vinyl paints demand, and does not need any maintenance beyond an occasional wipe with a damp cloth. It can also be applied as a single coat over existing drywall if you are not gutting the room. The single coat is thinner and does less work, but it is still 10 times more vapor permeable than the paint sitting on the wall right now. There is one more thing in that 1976 revision document. I did not show it to you yet because I wanted you to see the material first. On page 23, the revision includes a marketing recommendation directed at member companies. The recommendation reads that, in order to accelerate market transition away from labor-intensive plaster finishes, member companies should consider promoting low-maintenance painted drywall as a premium feature emphasizing the modern American lifestyle. The recommendation is a single paragraph. It is followed by a list of suggested ad copy phrases. Several of them appeared in actual paint marketing throughout the late 1970s. The American interior wall, flat, vinyl painted, sealed, was sold to homeowners as a feature. It was, on paper, a downgrade. A material that breathed was replaced with a material that did not, marketed as progress. Kobayashi Toshiyuki told me, on the last morning of my visit, that he could not understand a country that would seal up the inside of every room and then complain that the family inside got sick. He said the wall was supposed to be a second skin. A skin you cannot breathe through is no skin at all. Once you know, you cannot unknow it. Total cost of Shikkui materials for an average bedroom, $500, one time. Total electricity consumed by the wall, 0. Total wall maintenance for the next 100 years, none. Total summer, AC cooling load attributable to humidity removal that the wall would now handle, 40% reduction. Compare that to the lifetime cost of a vinyl-painted drywall room. Repainting every 10 years at $500 per room. Mold remediation at $3,500 after 12 years. Dehumidifier electricity at $200 per year. Add up 40 years of those bills against $500 of Shikkui that lasts a century. I paid those bills for 14 years. Nobody told me. Not the painter who repainted my bedroom every decade and shook my hand on the way out. Not the mold remediation company who removed 3 sections of drywall behind my dishwasher. Not the home inspector who walked through my house for $350 and never once mentioned that the walls themselves were the reason the air in my home felt heavy in August. Kobayashi Toshiyuki told me by running his palm down a 78-year-old wall in his workshop and showing me a surface that was dry, cool, and exactly the same shade of white it had been in 1948. There is a phrase Kobayashi Toshiyuki repeated to me twice. The wall must breathe with the family. If the wall holds its breath, the family will hold theirs too. Once you understand that the smooth painted surface around every room you sleep in is sealing the air your children breathe, you cannot go back to paying for repainting and mold remediation as if those costs were just part of owning a home. I want to know what is happening with the walls in your house right now. Tell me your state. Tell me whether you have seen mold appear in your home since you bought it. Tell me what your last summer cooling bill was. I read every comment. I am building a national map of this. There is more where this came from. Japanese building methods the American construction industry has spent 50 years quietly removing from the code. If you want to be there for the next one, subscribe now. Once you know, you cannot unknow it.